Penguin Random House Audio presents Tiny But Mighty, Kitten Lady's Guide to Saving the Most Vulnerable Felines. This is the author, Hannah Shaw. Introduction. Hi guys! Before we begin, I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank you for joining me for the audiobook of Tiny But Mighty. I am joined in the studio by two of my foster kittens, Penelope and Petunia, who are very purry today. The fact that you're here with us means the world not only to me, but also to them. So thank you for investing the time in learning more about these vulnerable little lives. I'm so grateful to have you as part of this movement. My name is Hannah Shaw, but most people know me as Kitten Lady. I'm a professional animal rescuer, a humane educator, and a fierce advocate for the protection of kittens. My life is dedicated to saving young kittens, and I've spent my career teaching people all around the world to do the same. I'm on a mission to change the world for the smallest and most vulnerable felines. Everything I do is structured around saving little lives. I live in a home with a built-in kitten nursery that's tailored to meet the needs of orphans, helping them to recover, blossom, and thrive. Once a motherless kitten enters my home, she's safe here. This is where the cold become warm, the sick become well, and the hungry get a belly full of nutritious food. Over the years, I've saved hundreds of babies, and the transformations I witness are profound. It's absolutely life-changing to watch as some of the tiniest and most hopeless kittens grow into robust, mighty cats. I'm so immersed in rescue that sometimes I forget how unique it is to be a kitten mom. Once I was at a grocery store purchasing human baby food for a sickly orphan when a chatty employee started asking me about my child. "Do you have a baby at home?" asked the clerk. "Yes, I do," I replied. "Oh, how wonderful. Boy or girl?" I said, "She's a little girl." "Lovely. How old?" "She's 5 weeks old." "Wow, only 5 weeks old? You look great," she replied. And of course I was like, "Why, thank you." "And what's the little girl's name?" "Earthworm." Her face went pale and she stopped talking to me. But hey, she didn't ask what species. Being a surrogate caregiver to baby cats is a unique and fulfilling experience. My work as a kitten advocate has taken me to some pretty wild places. Whether I find myself on an international train with a secret kitten hidden in my hoodie, on an overnight road trip in a van with dozens of kittens, or crawling in the dirt on my hands and knees trying to find the source of a tiny meow, it's always an adventure. Kitten rescue has taught me that true compassion is spontaneous and unconditional, and that even though I'm just one tiny person, if I bear witness to suffering, I have the power to do something about it. A life of kitten rescue wasn't something I actively sought out. In fact, quite the contrary. Kittens came into my life like a whirlwind, and they made their presence impossible to ignore. A lifelong animal advocate, I knew I had it in my heart to help, but as one individual, how could I possibly make a difference? I quickly learned the hard way that there are very few resources available to young kittens. I discovered that if unweaned kittens entered an animal shelter, they were considered too young to be viable, and they were typically euthanized. Everywhere I turned for help, there seemed to be this gap in resources when it came to the littlest lives. I found that even if I wanted to help them myself, there was almost no reliable information available about what I could personally do to give them a chance. Ultimately, I determined that if these resources didn't exist, I could take small steps to be part of the solution. And so the day I found my first kitten outside, my journey began. It was a day like any other day. I was 21 years old, working for a summer camp that served children with special needs, and we had taken the campers to a public park for some fun afternoon activities. As I sat on a bench next to a coworker, I looked up into the tall trees above, which were speckled with bright sunshine. I noticed a small, curious silhouette that looked out of place, and I could swear I saw a tiny eye among the leaves. I rubbed my eyes, squinting to get a better look, and I gasped. There she was. A little black kitten was looking back at me with one eye crusted shut. She was at least 15 feet high, lying on a branch like the littlest leopard. My mind was racing. How did she get up there? Where's her family? What happens if I leave her there? What should I do? I looked down at my shoes. In flip-flops, I was in no shape to be climbing a tree. And suppose I did climb the tree. Then what? It was only a matter of minutes before I found myself with my feet stuffed into a coworker's sneakers, testing my strength as I shimmied my way up the bark. My colleagues gathered the children who watched for what I would do next. And a crowd started forming. Soon, total strangers were cheering me on. Suddenly, the world around me disappeared, and I was fixated on this singular goal. I had to get this dang kitten out of the tree. Clumsily, I climbed the tree to the branch where the kitten lay, scrawny and lethargic. I reached out, grasped my hand around her skinny body, plopped her into my shirt, and shimmied back down. The children squealed and the strangers clapped. For about 1 minute, I felt so triumphant in my achievement and shocked that I was now holding this small, furry individual. But the feeling of accomplishment was immediately overshadowed by the panicked question, so what do I do now? That was the day I unexpectedly became the mother to a tiny, meowing carnivore. The moment I first wrapped my hand around her 5-week-old body, I felt an immediate responsibility to ensure that she had what she needed, though admittedly I had no idea what that was. It's pretty embarrassing, but I distinctly remember carrying her back to the office at that summer camp, opening up the fridge and thinking, she can probably eat a hot dog, right? I emptied a box of children's building blocks, and that became her first temporary home. As scared and as clueless as I was, I felt determined to give her a good life. I named her Coconut, Coco for short, because I'd shimmied up the tree to pluck her like the sweet fruit. It didn't take long for me to fall in love. Coco became my little sidekick, and I became her family. Since I rescued her, hundreds of other kittens have passed through my home, but only she and my cat Eloise have stayed. She sleeps beside me at night, greets me every morning, and sits in my lap while I work, her purrs deep and therapeutic against my legs. Coco is my ride or die, my right-hand cat, my inspiration, and my very best friend. After I rescued Coco, a veil was lifted, and I started finding kittens absolutely everywhere. By dumpsters, beneath backyard grills, under parked cars. Admittedly, the more kittens started finding me, the more I started looking for them. Every time I took in a new kitten, I gained a little more knowledge and experience with their care, and a little more of a reputation, too. Soon I became known amongst friends and colleagues as the person you call if you find a kitten, and boy, did the calls start coming. I heard you're a kitten lady. Coco was the gateway kitten who opened my eyes to the plight of kittens, setting into motion a journey that led me to discover that kittens are one of the most at-risk and misunderstood populations in the United States. For as loved as kittens are by our culture, they're also killed by the hundreds of thousands due to a complex and interrelated set of factors, including resource scarcity and lack of public awareness. This means that without the intervention of animal rescuers and an active community of foster homes, kittens too young for adoption, particularly newborns, known as neonatal kittens, face a ticking clock and often an untimely death. These forgotten felines need an advocate more than anyone. My journey wasn't always easy. I had a big learning curve. For years, I was totally overwhelmed by the act of saving kittens' lives, whether due to the confusing illnesses and mystery poops, the challenges of knowing what supplies to use and how to use them, or the perplexing process of finding a kitten a forever home. I've experienced the challenges of fostering orphans while working full-time or living in a studio apartment, the emotional hurdles of saying goodbye to kittens I've loved, and even the heavy burden of taking on too much and having to learn how to balance being compassionate to others with being kind to myself. I've learned one tiny step at a time how to provide a caring, supportive, enriching experience that sets kittens up for a lifetime of health and happiness. What I know now came through many late nights of research, through collaboration with other rescuers, and through the trial and error that comes with the heartbreak of loss and the triumph of success. All along, my goal has been to do the greatest good that I possibly can and to do it in a way that's sustainable, impactful, and fun. Having been through it all, I feel so passionate about sharing what I know regarding the protection and care of kittens so that other people can save lives too. I began to create the resources I wish I'd had when I was getting started, and something incredible started to happen. People started listening. I made it my mission to be a source of support to those who want to help kittens.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?